Andy, Richwood talking to head football coach Gary Roach. Gary, first of all, I know as opposed to last year, I would assume that the offseason this year was a little bit more what you expect.
Yeah, I'm just glad we got to do an off-season this year. We did multiple 7-on-7s, and some of these new faces we got, they got to show us what they can do before the regular season started.
Obviously, Caleb Jantuah he was a special player for you. He's gone, and some of your opponents probably say finally gone, but I mean, now he is gone, so you faced having to replace a kid of that caliber who has, as you mentioned before, all the records here at Richwood. Just talk about replacing him. How are you going to do it?
You can't replace him. He's one of the rare guys that comes through here once in a lifetime, and there's a reason he has all the school records. But I feel like Cooper Donahue and his supporting cast of receivers and running backs, I think they can do a pretty good job filling in that hole.
What will you expect from Cooper in regards to being a quarterback? A lot of people watch Richwood, they're probably going to remember what Caleb was able to do here. What will you expect from him, and how will you go about coaching him that way?
So far, what I've seen out of him this summer, I know 7-on-7, you don't have pads on, you don't have people rushing him, but he threw 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, so that's a pretty good ratio. With him, we can still do a very similar offense than what we've been doing, but luckily for Coop, he's got an experienced line and more receivers to throw to compared to what Jantuah's had in the past.
Ironically, today I visited Shady Spring in Richwood. You just scrimmaged Shady. What did you glean from that scrimmage with Shady?
There's a reason I scrimmaged them. I knew that they were going to be a pretty solid team this year. They're normally really good at defense. We lost the scrimmage. I think it was 3 touchdowns to 1 varsity and 1 to nothing, 1 JV. But everything that I seen on film was fixable. We were either stepping wrong on the O-line, we weren't pursuing good on the defense. Everything that I've seen so far was fixable, so that's a plus.
Did you feel like you came into the offseason needing more work on defense or offense? What with what you were losing?
I feel like offensively I had to change a few things. Obviously, 90% of our production was Jantuah and he left, so I knew I had to figure out something. But defense, we got most of our guys back. We have our leading tackler back, our leading sack leader back. But offensively, I say is what we needed to work on the most.
What, with regards to Cooper replacing Jantuah, what are his strengths as a quarterback?
Cooper,
is it passing? You mentioned
I feel like he has a pretty good arm. Against Shady, he went 8 for 10, 80 yards. I mean, that's probably the best percentage that we've had passing the ball, and we drove on that possession. I know that we had mixtures of 1s and 2s in, but we drove all the way down the field, 12 plays, 80 yards, no turnovers, no mistakes, no huddle, and we scored. So with Coop, like I said, the good thing he has multiple receivers to throw to, and he has an experienced line. I think he completed 6 passes on that drive with 4 or 5 different receivers.
Who are some of the guys you think, will some of those receivers surprise people? I know you mentioned one young man in particular you thought would be a big star here in the future.
Yeah, Tyler Barnhouse, he's a sophomore. He's grown since last year, which he was so small last year, he couldn't do nothing but grow. But I feel like one-on-one, I know normally Trail and West, they got some good man-to-man corners, but I think teams are going to have to double him for the most part. Over summer, 7-on-7 out of 20 touchdowns that Coop threw, I think about 13 of them came to Tyler Barnhouse.
So he's showing ability to get up. You had a young man in McGee here who was a great receiver. Is he in that same kind of category?
They're 2 different receivers. McGee was like 6'3", ran good routes, didn't really have the speed, but he was a deep threat because of how tall he was. Tyler Barnhouse probably about 5'7", 5'8", about 135 pounds, but he's shifty. Like in the open field, if he gets it in the open field, it's going to be a foot race, one-on-one, and I mean, we're even going to line him up back at quarterback sometimes. I mean, put him in motion. We got to get him the ball.
Just because of his speed?
Yeah, he's got speed, his agility, I mean, everything.
What about your line? I mean, I know Tater's back for you this year. Big fella. Saw him in there and had to make sure my screen could get him in there, and we were able to accomplish that, no problem. So, talk about your line, him in particular. I know you want to keep him healthy this year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic every year, probably a little bit too much optimistic, but I feel, and some of our coaches feel the same way, this is my 7th year being here total, we feel like this can be our best line we've had if we stay healthy. We got everybody back from last year's team up front. We got 3 4-year starters on the line with Josh Lanes, with Tyler Workman, and Josh Hypes. And then we got 2 guys that started a little bit last year. Aaron Mann, who's a sophomore, he started every game. And then Evan Bailey, who started a few games last year, he's a junior.
With that many linemen back, and a lot of people in this area have a lot of linemen back, so it should be real interesting. But do you feel like you'll be better running the ball outside of what your quarterback gave you last year? I mean, with other guys?
Yeah, I mean, with that much lineman back, we better run the ball better. If not, then we got some problems. But with Coop, I feel like he has a pretty good arm, but he's got really good players to throw to. I like to be able to pass the ball, but you can't pass the ball if you can't run the ball. So obviously, we're going to come out trying to run.
Will you be multiple in mixture, you think?
Yeah, normally that's what we try to be, a multiple offense. But it seemed like we've kind of struggled in the run game with having more than just one person running the football, besides when Jeremiah Johnston and Jantuah was here. Like the years past, it was only Jantuah. So if you only have one guy running the ball, I mean, you can't pass the football. So I think this year we got maybe 3 or 4 guys that can run, 4 or 5 guys to throw to.
Are you pretty optimistic of getting the season in this year? I mean, there's a new variant of this COVID. Are you guys pretty good? I know some places like Princeton, they had 26 quarantine at one time.
Yeah.
Have you guys been pretty good with that? Or?
Well, right off the bat, we had to quarantine for a few days because we went to a 7-on-7 at Clay, and we got the call that we were exposed to someone that had it that was at that tournament. So all of our guys went, because we were past that window, they all went and got tested and it was negative. They were able to practice a few days later. So we already got one scare. But I know everybody thinks one way or another about COVID. I changed my mind when I had a baby. Like, I started taking it more serious, but there's no way we're going to get a season in if something doesn't change with the mandates and stuff like that. Mask or no mask, if they work or not, we ain't going to get a full season in if things don't change.
I know that you mentioned it, you're a new father since last season. So how's that life treating you?
My priorities have changed a lot. I've calmed down. I don't get as mad as often, like for football practice or games, scrimmage or whatever. But my priorities are definitely changed.
Wait until our teenage years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll be I'll be a cheer dad, whatever it is.
Okay. Hey Gary, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.